an executive, when I started working with an assistant, it transformed my productivity and effectiveness. But to be honest, this work style didn't come easily to me. A lot of executives find it challenging to work with an assistant, especially at the beginning. They've been immersed for so long in tasks like scheduling, email, and meeting preparation that they barely know where to begin handing it off.
Here at Full Focus, we've seen that in countless clients. Whether you're an executive or an executive assistant, getting this relationship established can take some careful thought. That's why we've developed Full Focus Executive Assistants. We want to set you up for a win in what could be the most productive partnership of your work life.
So a couple of things to start out. First, we like the term executive assistant, and we often shorten that to EA. In many companies, this role is called administrative assistant, but that's way too limited for what a great assistant can do for you. This role goes well beyond getting coffee and screening phone calls. Your EA will become your right-hand person in managing your work life. That will leave you free to focus on your greatest contribution to your team and your company. Regardless of your title, think of your assistant as an executive assistant, not an administrative helper.
Second, we know that there are some predictable pain points for both executives and their EAs when starting out in a new role. It could take a while to develop trust in your assistant, and for the EA, it could take a while to get up to speed on working with a new boss. That's normal. Every executive has their own goals and objectives, and each has their own work style and preferences. And we know that you don't have much time in your schedule for training a new hire. That means that many new EAs can feel like they're drowning for a few weeks. We're here to make the whole startup and onboarding process as smooth as possible. We can help you navigate this phase so the EA can quickly begin to add value right away.
Each subject in this course is treated in 2 videos. The first is primarily for the executive. It gives you an overview of how your EA can help in that area and the key principles you should know about. We recommend that both the executive and the EA watch these videos. They're numbered 1.0, 2.0, and so on.
The second video for each subject is an implementation guide designed specifically for the EA. They're numbered 1.1, 2.1, etc. Executives, you're welcome to watch these if you like, but feel free to skip them. For your EA, these videos give you everything you need to start taking action on what you've just learned. Think of it like a quick start guide. And be sure to download the course book. This will give you a summary of the key points from each video, plus a copy of all the tools we'll mention. You'll want to have that in hand as you move along. So let's get started. We'll see you in video 1.0, Characteristics of an Exceptional Boss.
In our experience, most executive assistants want to do a great job. They're willing to bend over backward to help their executives succeed. However, it takes 2 to make the relationship work. As the leader, it's up to you to set your assistant up for success. Frankly, most of that comes down to having the right mindset. Here are 4 characteristics that will make you an exceptional boss and nearly guarantee that your executive assistant will be a standout too. The first characteristic is respect. This means respect for your assistant's skills and abilities. Your assistant is not at the same level in the company as you. However, they do have amazing skills and specialized knowledge. This will become very valuable to you if you let them. Start by respecting your assistant as a competent professional. Realize they can accept responsibility and act independently. Set clear expectations, then allow them to work. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is underestimating your assistant's potential contribution to your success. To set them up for a win, respect their skills and delegate as much responsibility as you can. The second characteristic of an exceptional boss is trust. Trust is essential to the executive assistant relationship. This includes trusting their capabilities, but it goes beyond that. To be effective, your assistant must have access to your thinking, your schedule, your email, and even some personal information. Without trust, you'll withhold information and responsibility. That undercuts both of you. You'll keep doing things you should hand off. Your assistant will be far less effective than they could be. They'll also find little fulfillment in the job. Don't make the mistake of hoarding tasks and information. To greatly increase your assistant's effectiveness, trust them with as much responsibility as you can. A couple of side notes are in order here. First, Yes, we do realize that trust takes time to build. We'll give steps for building trust in the onboarding process. Second, yes, we did say that you'll trust your executive assistant with personal information. Now, this is important within reason. Your assistant's primary job is to help you succeed in yours. Sometimes that includes a bit of personal assistance. Of course, there are limits to this, as we'll see. The point is that you're freeing your assistant to help you succeed. A third characteristic of an exceptional boss is boundaries. An assistant is a professional helper, not a personal lackey. They're an aid to you, not an extension of your personality. They have personal boundaries and ethical standards of their own. Now, let me share with you a story. Emily was an assistant to a high-profile public speaker. He had an international platform and was highly successful. He was the most sought-after consultant on personal transformation and success. Like many high achievers, he was incredibly energetic and driven. It seemed like Emily had a dream job, so it was a surprise to others when she quit. Now, she said, "It was just too much. I was traveling constantly, working 60 to 80 hours a week, and fielding phone calls at 2 a.m. I decided I needed my own life." Always treat your assistant with the same dignity that you'd expect. Respect personal boundaries, honor their ethical convictions, don't make them do something they consider morally wrong. Respect their personal time and family relationships. Don't insist that they work every weekend or be available on vacation. When you don't respect boundaries, you'll burn through assistants faster than tires on a race car. To win with your EA, treat them with the same dignity and respect they offer to you. The fourth characteristic of an outstanding executive is responsibility. Your assistant works for you. That's their job. But you also have a responsibility in this relationship. Your EA success depends on you providing clear expectations and adequate information. Don't hand your EA a set of keys and walk away. That's abdication. Take the time to onboard and train your EA. Communicate clearly and consistently. Nothing is more maddening than a boss who won't delegate or communicate. Help your assistant help you by taking responsibility in the relationship. And avoid the urge to scapegoat or blame your EA. Even when they've made a mistake, you are responsible for your own results. If you're hiring your first EA or tuning up your relationship with your assistant, I'm really excited for you. You have the power to create a highly successful partnership. I know of one high-profile executive who's had the same executive assistant for over 25 years. Imagine the impact on that exec's success, and imagine the impact you can make with capable, reliable support over 5 or 10 or 15 years. I can't wait to see what you'll achieve.
As an executive assistant, what is your job? I know what the job description will say, but what does that amount to? One of the best assistants I've worked with said this about her role. My job is to free up my executive to do the highest leverage work possible by taking over everything else. Another of our EAs put it this way: my job is to make my executive the hero of his story. I'm trying to make him the best he can be in all areas of life. That's an exciting partnership. As an executive assistant, you'll be in charge of scheduling, answering emails, taking notes during meetings, pulling information, handling requests from outside parties, and much more. Yet all of that boils down to this: your job is to help your boss succeed. Let me share 7 characteristics of an outstanding EA. The first characteristic of an outstanding assistant is that they have a high skill level. Our philosophy is that executive assistant is a high skill position. Granted, these are different skills than an engineer or an executive, but as an EA, you must be proficient in a number of things, including process management, interpersonal communication, business software applications, problem solving, and even conflict resolution. Very likely, you needed a lot of these to get hired. Others, you will need to acquire. That means you must get good at independent learning. The quickest way to frustrate your boss is to say, "I can't do that." The way to actually win is to say, "I've not done that before, but I'll learn." An outstanding executive assistant is a lifelong learner. The second characteristic of an outstanding EA is humility. The essence of your job is to help someone else succeed. That means thinking of others first, and that takes some humility. Occasionally, it means doing what may seem like menial tasks. One day, our Chief Content Officer, Joel Miller, had a day that was jam-packed with meetings. Maybe you've been there. He barely had time to run from one to the next, and certainly no time to go out for lunch. When Joel exited the meeting that ended at 12:15, he found his assistant waiting there with a plate of food. This gave him just enough time to quickly eat before his 12:30 meeting. Going through the buffet line is not in anyone's job description, but something that small can be the difference between success and failure for a busy executive. Be adaptable to change. Remember, you're following the boss's priorities. When you have the attitude that some tasks are beneath you, it's hard to be an assistant. When you have the attitude that no job is too small, you'll quickly become a hero to your boss. The third characteristic of an outstanding assistant is confidence. Confidence may sound odd alongside humility, but they actually go together. Part of helping your boss is protecting them from others, and sometimes from themselves. One of our EAs put it this way. She said, "My job is sort of like being an offensive lineman. I create boundaries around my boss so she can focus." As an EA, you may have to say no to people who outrank you. And sometimes you'll have to push back on your boss. That takes a lot of confidence. To win with your boss, develop the confidence to say no when needed. And P.S., I know you can do it. The fourth characteristic is confidentiality. You will be privy to sensitive company and even personal information. This relationship works only if your boss knows you have high integrity. A huge part of that is being able to maintain confidentiality. Others in the company may try to wheedle clues from you about your boss. You'll also have access to a lot of personal details about your executive. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is to break confidentiality. The way to win with your boss is to always have their back. The fifth characteristic is follow through. As an executive assistant, you are a professional loop closer. You'll be responsible for completing countless small tasks. You may also track tasks assigned to others. Executives hate open loops, and it's your job to close them. Remember, when you forget something, your executive takes the blame. One of the worst things you can tell your boss is, "Oops, I forgot." The way to gain confidence is to track the status of all open items so nothing falls through the cracks. The sixth characteristic of an outstanding EA is solutions orientation. Your boss will often turn to you when they are facing a problem. Sometimes, of course, the executive solution isn't ideal. Here's an example. Jeff was an assistant for a highly successful attorney. She made high demands, including babysitting and doing laundry. The previous EA finally quit in frustration. Jeff realized he'd have to push back on these demands. Rather than say, "No way," he found a solution. The problem was that the boss couldn't find sitters. So Jeff suggested doing some research, then scheduling sitters from an approved list. Executives hate having problems dumped back in their lap. The way to win is by saying, "That won't work, let's try this instead." Our seventh characteristic is anticipation. You need to become an expert in one subject, your boss. Get to know their work style, their preferences, and even moods. Part of your magic is to see what they need before they need it. The sweetest words your executive can hear are, "That's already done." When you can go beyond simply following instructions and begin to take care of things your boss hasn't even thought about, you will truly be an outstanding executive assistant. All this may sound a bit overwhelming, especially if you're a new EA, but I believe you can do this. You can learn new skills, serve with humility, step up with confidence, be worthy of trust, follow through on assignments, and begin to anticipate needs. You've got what it takes to be the best assistant your boss has ever had. I know you do. The primary role of your executive assistant is to help you succeed. To do that, they'll need access to a variety of information. When they don't have it, the job just gets harder for everyone. When they do have it, they can save you countless hours. Here's an example. One of our executives had to cancel an overseas family trip due to illness. Fortunately, he had purchased travel insurance. However, there's a lot of work involved in filing the claim. Our executive had already granted his assistant a great deal of access to personal information. On top of that, he was willing to trust her with personal banking information and even confidential medical records. Thanks to this high level of trust, this assistant saved the executive about 20 hours of work in gathering documents, filing the claim, and following up. And that was on top of recouping the money spent on reservations. One of our EAs put it this way: provide me with as much information as you feel comfortable with. Credit cards, personal information, etc. And in turn, I'll make you the hero of your own story. Many executives find it hard to share confidential information with an EA. That puts the confidentiality of company information at risk. And for personal information, it requires a certain loss of privacy. It can also require an investment of time to collect the information, including account numbers, passwords, and so on. It really does require a high level of trust in the assistant. However, once that trust is established, sharing information pays huge dividends. First, it saves time, countless hours that would be spent on small tasks. Second, it increases efficiency. An EA can often do these administrative tasks faster and frankly better than the executive. Third, it generates impact. Released from low leverage tasks like filling expense reports, answering emails, and reconciling credit card statements, the executive is free to focus on their greatest contribution. Trust takes time to build, of course, yet we recommend granting as much access to your assistant as possible. That makes both of you more valuable to the company. What do we mean by access? Here are the basics. First, it means granting access to your thinking. To help you, an EA must know about you. What are your goals? Your current objectives? How do you see your role? Your greatest contribution? What do you need from an assistant? How can they help you? What drives you crazy? Second, it means granting some access to your time. Communication is the lifeblood of the executive-EA relationship. That involves a certain amount of time each week and most days. We'll talk about communication rhythms a bit later. For now, realize that you must invest some time to make this work. Third, an EA must have access to files and passwords. They can't do their job without access to your working files, company documents, emails, and voicemail. Obviously, this does not include all of your personal accounts. Give your assistant what they need to get the job done. Fourth is financial information. Regardless of your level in the company, you deal with finances. You have a department budget and a company credit card. You may be responsible for a great deal of financial information. Your EA can help you, but only if they have access to the same information. If you cannot trust your EA with nearly all of the company information you control, they can't help you efficiently. Fifth, your EA needs access to your personal information and preferences. For example, your EA needs your credit card number to book travel. He or she must know what food you prefer if they are going to order your lunch. He can't remind you of your family birthdays if he doesn't know them. She can't retrieve the files you left at home without the door code. This one is more difficult to grant because it can feel invasive. However, it's crucial in order for them to provide the help you need. Remember, your EA can't help you without access and information. Begin with an attitude of openness, then let trust build as they grow into the role. Let them make you the hero of the story.
My boss sends flowers to each of his 5 daughters on their birthdays. But here's a little secret, just between the 2 of us. He doesn't remember their birthdays. I do. Of course he personalizes their cards, but I make it happen. I'm able to do that because he has trusted me with information. Family birthdays, home addresses of his children, even his personal credit card information. Your boss probably won't think of all the ways you could help them, so here are 4 simple steps to get the access and information you'll need. Step 1 is to realize that trust takes time. I'm going to outline the entire scope of information you'll eventually need. Most executives will not be ready to hand all this information to you on day 1. Start with the basics and give it some time. As you gain your boss's confidence, greater access will follow. Step 2 is to interview your boss to determine their responsibilities and yours. Your boss may not think of this, so you might need to take the initiative here. The purpose of the interview is to find out 2 things. First, what are the executive's primary responsibilities? What are their current goals? How do they make their primary contribution? What is the highest leverage work that they do? And what's the lowest leverage work that they do? To set your boss up for a win, you need to know what they're trying to accomplish. List your boss's goals and initiatives on the project's pages of your full focus planner, or somewhere you could review them constantly. Second, determine how you can best help them. What will be your primary duties? You may already know the basics, but push for specifics here. Be ready to suggest ways that you could help them or tasks to take over. Hints: many executives don't think very widely about this. You could help expand their vision for what you could do. Step 3, determine what access you need to perform your duties. You may begin to list these items during the meeting, but you may need to think more comprehensively later on. This list will include things like calendar and email logins, credit card information, personal information such as driver's license numbers, travel awards programs. We've listed most of what you will need on the Executive Information Summary, a spreadsheet that guides this process. Add to it as needed. Remember, this could include physical access through keys, door codes, and so on. Step 4, gather and record the information. You will already have gathered some of this in your initial meeting, and you could probably find more on your own or through others. You may need to assign some of these items to your boss to add to your information doc, as he or she may be the only one who currently has access. Use the Executive Information Summary for most items. We also recommend using a password tracking app such as 1Password or LastApp. You'll probably want a final session together to review the accuracy of information. Step 5 is to update this information as needed, at least annually. Things change quickly in the information world, and you want to keep your data up to date. So that's it. Remember, it will probably be up to you to drive this agenda. Be patient and let trust grow. But don't be shy about getting the access you need to do your job.